After a night of anxiety, Rose decided to approach Skylar directly and take care of this little problem herself. She was the queen, and she knew how to flaunt this power to her advantage. But from the moment she and Skylar locked eyes, it appeared this was one young woman who did not fear Rose. In fact, she claimed she didn't even know who she was.
Who are you? Who am I?
Skylar's eyes were filled with contempt. Rose knew that not everyone liked her, but she had never seen anyone make it so blatantly obvious. Those who did not love her at least feared her.
I suggest you remedy your rude tone, little girl. You know very well that I am the queen. Would you like to keep your room here in the Southern Palace, or do you prefer that I imprison you?
Instead of bending to her words, Skylar became even angrier at the strange affectation in Rose's voice. It seemed as though she was trying to imitate Bronwyn.
I don't think King Aldrich would like that.
Rose shuddered at the mention of her husband's name. Skylar knew exactly what to say to enrage Rose, and was saying it with abandon. Although she knew Skylar was right, Rose scoffed at her words.
And do you think the king will choose your side over mine? You're a commoner. I am the queen.
Skylar cocked her head at Rose with a calm expression and gave her a cold smile.
Don't be so hard on me, Rose. We will soon be sisters.
Information was clearly a weapon to this sorceress, and Rose was taken aback. One of the many pieces of information she had received from her visitors was that Rose would call Bronwyn sister in public. Rose gasped in disgust.
Sister? How could I ever be your sister?
Goosebumps rose on her skin. This arrogant girl was settling into her home like a snake in a basket, and was threatening Rose's very existence. Everyone else thought she was so sweet, so impressive, and this gave Rose the chills. She was a beast who only bared her fangs for Rose.
Having the same husband would make us sisters, according to your alleged logic. You tried to intimidate me with references to the deposed queen, but she is exactly that, deposed, and no longer here. I was chosen then, and I will be chosen now. You know nothing of your fate. I'm married to a man who loves me. The former queen was married to him for convenience. Even if His Majesty paid you any attention, it would be nothing compared to what I have with him. So you will never be my sister. So do not call me that again. Sister, sister, sister.
The veins in Rose's head began to pulse, and she could not hold her body back as Skylar mocked her. She landed a hard blow directly in Skylar's stomach.
You will sooner die than be my sister.
Daughter? Rose whipped her head around to see her false parents staring in the doorway. They had heard a commotion and thought they recognized Rose's voice, so they came running. Rose felt as though she had been caught in a situation she could not get out of. She needed these people to vouch for her nobility, and if they saw her violently attack a young girl, they might no longer want to play the parts of her parents. They looked down at the floor where Skylar lay, clutching her stomach. But instead of asking for forgiveness or apologizing, she smiled up at the three of them wickedly. To Rose's surprise, William landed a blow right across Skylar's face. "You insolent little bitch!"
You are bold and malicious. Do not approach our daughter with such a foul mouth.
Skylar kept a fierce look on her face, which was glowing red on one side from the smack. But she wore a face of bravery and confidence, as if she were the one who had thrown the last blow.
Who raised a person like you? No wonder your parents sold your body to the king at your age. I would not want a daughter like you in my home either."
More than ever before, Rose felt as though she had found her family. These were people who would stand by her unconditionally. That much was clear.
"It's all right, parents. You must not wear yourselves out speaking to someone as lowly as this. Let us leave this place."
Skylar stood up and watched them defiantly. Once they had left the room, she allowed the tears she had been holding back to fall down her cheek. As an orphan, it was devastating to hear that her parents would not have wanted her. How could such a despicable woman like Rose have parents who loved her, and Skylar had no one? "People are comparing your wife to a machine, Henry. The way she completes her work has impressed the aides very much. She is vastly improving our foreign relations, and overseeing tasks that have not been seen to in years, some in even decades." "Thank you for the update, Haxon." "Is this not welcome news? She has created an entire reorganization proposal that just requires your approval for implementation. You will soon be known as the most successful king in celestial history, especially as we expand our empire." "She is quite impressive in the office." "What are you fearing? That her loyalty still lies with Elisaria?" No. It's just, I love her, inside and out." "I do not see the problem there, cousin." "I just wonder if these feelings are reciprocated." "Well, if it's any indication of how many times your sheets have needed to be changed since the wedding night, it seems like she certainly enjoys you." "That's exactly it, cousin. I wonder if my body is all that she wants from me. Our physical connection is like a burning flame. But she turns to ice when I seek more than that." "I am having trouble sympathizing with you because your wife is insatiable for you." "I am having trouble not punching you in the face." "Fine. You have both been extremely busy since the wedding. You have not had much quality time. Perhaps that is what you need. Until then, you must simply role-play." "Haxon, you lewd bastard." "You're the lewd one, cousin. I speak of playing the role of husband and wife until it comes more naturally. Create situations where you are both forced to take the roles you want. Perhaps you can save her from a dangerous situation." "Or she could save me." "Do you prefer to be the damsel in distress instead of the hero?" "I just want to see the desperation on her face for me, the way I am desperate for her. Haxon, it's time for you to prepare a hunt for Bronwyn and I."
Hunting? My head was resting on Henry's bare chest when he asked if I wanted to go on a hunting excursion with him.
"I thought you could use some stress relief."
"I suppose so. You truly have enough energy to go on such a physically demanding trip, run an empire, and still be ready for me in the evenings."
"Ready for you?"
"I am the Queen, Henry. If you deny me what I ask, I'll have you imprisoned."
"And what do you ask?"
"For you. For this." I gently slid my hand down underneath the sheets, running my fingers along his thigh. I was careful to keep my fingers away from the part of him that was growing towards me, knowing that the tease would make him all the more desperate for me to touch him where it mattered. Although he was already moaning with pleasure, there was a pained look on his face, as if his mind was at war with his body. Don't you dare ask me to stop. I pressed my fingers into his thigh and used it as leverage to swing my body around so that I was straddling him. I gave him the full weight of my body, pressing myself down on him so firmly that he could not move. I smiled coyly and waited there. You can take me when you can get out from under me. He squirmed with real difficulty, and I laughed at his effort. Come now, am I so heavy?
You are as light as a feather.
He was now on top of me, looking down at me with his sad, violet eyes. I said he could take me when he could move me, and I kept my promise. Henry and I rode side by side through the beautiful countryside. At first, when he suggested we go hunting together, I became anxious at the notion of not completing all my work. I had been so busy, and it perhaps was not the most responsible decision. But as my hair whipped in the wind as I rode, I felt free. There was a glint in his violet eyes as he galloped ahead of me, as if he was up to no good. I could not pretend that it wasn't exciting.
I don't suppose you could catch up with me.
I raced ahead before I could even blink and was suddenly out of sight. I smiled to myself and leaned forward on the horse, taking his challenge seriously. But what started out as fun and games turned into fear as I heard his scream.
Help! Help!
I raced ahead and found Henry in a small clearing, off his horse and looking like he feared for his life. What happened? What's wrong?
Look out, Majesty! Don't come any closer!
I looked around in fear to see what the source of his fear was, and I nearly looked past the small fox that was staring at him in confusion.
It will attack you!
Almost like a domesticated dog, the small fox wagged its tail and padded over to me. I looked it in the eye deeply, and for a moment I forgot why I was there. I wanted to pet this fox. I reached out and touched its head, and it made a sound of pleasure. Henry, are you well?
Be careful! It attacked me. It will do the same to you. That fox is evil and wicked.
As I stroked the fox's head, it nuzzled its snout into me. I had often spent time with the palace animals in Elisaria, before Rose arrived and everything turned upside down, and I suddenly felt a pang of nostalgia. I missed my time spent with simpler creatures who were uncomplicated. They wanted nothing from you but love.
Wow, Bronwyn, you tamed this wild fox. You saved my life.
How did I save your life?
Your mere presence helped me.
Well, I'm glad you feel safe again. The fox heard a noise elsewhere in the forest and scurried away, suddenly forgetting his new friend. I had no choice but to confront Henry's strange behavior. Are you all right, my king? He had a bit of dirt on his elegant clothing and looked rugged in a way I hadn't seen before. I walked towards him slowly. If you really want me to save you, I'll show you how. He looked at me helplessly. It seemed he thought I was coming to hug him as he outstretched his arms to receive me, but I walked past him to a nearby tree, leaning the front of my body against it. Henry followed me and hugged me tightly from behind.
I love you.
Prove it. I took his hands and brought them down to the bottom of my skirt and guided him as he lifted it up.
So, you pretended you were being attacked by a fox, then?
That was the only animal who showed up. I prayed for a bear, but then I would have really been in trouble.
Henry readjusted his position in bed, making sure the bandage on his head was just right. He had a grim look on his face, angry and upset because the dramatic scene worked in the opposite way than he intended. It seemed that the dangerous situation he had created only made her want him more, but had no effect on her love. He pulled the covers over his head. But just then, Bronwyn popped her head into the room, her expression icy and unreadable. Intimidated by this, Haxon left the room promptly, leaving Henry still buried under the covers and clueless about who he was in the room with.
I looked at Henry, who was wrapped up in the blankets like a mummy, and all I could imagine was being entwined in those sheets with him. I sat gently on the bed and leaned toward him.
"Leave me, Haxon."
I heard him murmuring under the blanket. I held back a laugh at the thought of Haxon doing what I wanted to do to him. I pressed against him harder.
"Get out, Haxon! Now!"
I was about to lean in even harder, but he spoke again before I could.
"I cannot handle the weight of you, Haxon. Get your heavy body off me and out of this room."
My blood went cold. I thought about all the times he had touched my body, all the times he had asked me to take the lead. Was it because he wasn't attracted to me, and he needed it to be forced? My stomach turned thinking about the times he had squeezed my stomach, my thighs, and my face burned with embarrassment. I got up and showed myself out.
Catherine sat in her elegantly adorned room, her face tense with worry. Her chambers were filled with luxurious furnishings, but the atmosphere was heavy with the weight of a troubling rumor that had been circulating. Originally, Catherine had a very good reputation in high society. She was kind and careful with her words, and known as modest, despite being the queen. After her husband brought in other women, sympathy for her grew, and the nobles admired her for standing firm. But once the rumor of an affair with Prince Henry surfaced, it cast a shadow over her already delicate situation. After the wedding reception, people began to whisper that Catherine and His Majesty Henry were having an affair, undermining her good reputation. Ivy, Catherine's lady-in-waiting, noticing the gravity of the situation, brought up what Catherine had been fearing: the suggestion of a relocation to Compshire, where former queens often stayed after losing their husbands.
Lady Catherine, I think now it might be best to go to Compshire. Of course the rumour is false, but it does not hurt to be cautious at a time like this.
Catherine's expression quickly stiffened at Ivy's suggestion. She had long rejected the idea of going to Compshire, fearing it would mean surrendering all power to Bronwyn, her successor. She knew she would lead a comfortable life there, but leaving would be like admitting her life was over.
Go to Compshire? Just because of a rumour? Nonsense. Besides, it also affects His Majesty Henry. Why am I the only one who should avoid it? You are not wrong, my lady, but Henry's reputation has always been a troubled one.
Catherine contemplated her options, her sadness evident as she considered the unfair treatment compared to Bronwyn. Divorced Bronwyn got a handsome new husband. How could she, who was still in mourning, be treated like this?
Going to Compshire would mean accepting the end of my life. I will rot there until my death, purposeless. My lady, no! I cannot lose everything without doing anything. I must fight.
She clutched her skirt and lowered her gaze.
It is time to take advantage of this rumour. In the evening, rather than retiring to the matrimonial chamber, I placed all the papers on my desk and immersed myself in work. The turbulence in my mind lingered, yet Henry's vexing presence compelled me to avoid an encounter. I found it arduous to concentrate, as my thoughts incessantly returned to the matrimonial bedroom. Currently, Henry proved exasperating, and the last thing I desired was to face him. With my thoughts divided, I endeavoured to focus on my work. Thankfully, I gradually regained concentration. Abruptly, a rhythmic knocking resonated from the door of the shared bedroom. Deliberately, I ignored the summons, flipping the paper as I dipped the pen into the inkwell. Still, Henry persisted with his insistent knocking. Far from abating, he continued rhythmically knocking. A silent challenge presented itself. Did he think persistence would break my resolve? Let him do as he pleased. I snorted and resumed my writing. However, the relentless knocking became increasingly difficult to ignore. Eventually, I gathered the papers and stealthily moved to the spare room across the corridor. The seldom-used chambers were tidy and equipped with desks. I placed the papers on the desks and sat in the chair, creating distance between myself and the door. But the unease lingered, and I had no choice but to move closer to the door. Placing a cushion by the door and sitting on it provided some ease. After placing the papers in my lap and cautiously opening the door, I felt more at ease. This way, I would know if Henry came out of his room. But no matter how long I waited, Henry didn't emerge. I was tired of waiting, and sure he must have given up by now. I gathered all my papers and opened the door to return to my room. My heart skipped a beat when I saw Henry standing in front of the door. When did he come out? Wasn't I attentive at all times?
Do you detest me so much, my queen? So much as to run away from me?
I didn't run away. I have too much work. As I tried to explain, an inexplicable guilt washed over me. Why hadn't I entered the shared bedroom? I didn't know how to proceed. If I complained that he didn't find me attractive, I would appear trivial. We were colleagues over everything, were we not? In the end, I hesitated, making up an excuse with another intention. You injured yourself in the woods today. I assumed that in your state you would not be comfortable lying next to me.
You didn't seem too concerned with that after I told you I was hurt.
I still don't understand how you were hurt by that friendly little animal.
You know nothing happened to me, don't you?
You deceived me. I welled up with tears, turned around and headed for my room. Henry followed me, persisting.
I'm truly sorry for my poor acting, my queen. I merely sought your attention, even if it was in such a manner.
I was torn between wanting to smack his face or kiss his mouth.
Are you very angry, my queen?
It is not your poor acting that offends me.
Really? Then what is it?
Think about it carefully, and I'm sure you can figure it out, though I won't know if your conscience will be as heavy as mine. And with those words, I left him, a puzzled expression on his face.
Haxon found himself pleasantly surprised. His workload had lightened since Bronwyn ascended the throne. She took the reins of tasks that were once under his temporary control. However, Bronwyn's addition also brought about an ironic setback, a delay in Henry's work. Post-marriage, Henry often succumbed to personal worries, leading to a significant drop in productivity. Whenever that happened, Haxon was forced to slow down on his work as well. Haxon, I have a question. Again? What is it now, Your Majesty? Again? Again? Henry narrowed his eyes. You're a real pain sometimes. Do you know that? What do you expect? I'm busy. His Majesty hasn't approved anything for 45 minutes, so I'm really up to my neck right now. If I haven't approved anything, shouldn't you be freer? It's my mind. My mind is overloaded. Please approve something. I'll do that after I ask you an important question. Let me guess. This is a question about the Queen. What's it about? Henry shook his head. It's about you. Do you remember when I was hiding under my covers? Ah, yes, that time. You got on top of me. Why would I do something so distasteful? Henry gulped. fearing he had figured out the source of strain between him and Bronwyn.
Haxon, by any chance, did my queen come to see me that day?
Haxon raised his eyebrows, realizing Henry had no knowledge of Bronwyn's presence.
Yes? Why do you ask? What really happened?
Henry groaned, covering his face with both hands.
Your Majesty, why? What happened? You thought it was me and you got angry.
I felt someone's weight on top of me and naturally I assumed it was you.
And?
I said you were heavy.
Haxon cocked his head.
What's wrong with that?
Henry couldn't believe Haxon's lack of understanding.
You only told her that she was heavy because she really seemed heavy to you. Why would she get angry?
But as soon as Haxon finished speaking, a low voice behind him sent chills down his spine.
I see. If it's the truth, a woman can't get angry. So you think I'm really heavy, I guess? Are you still wondering why I got angry, Henry?
Haxon slowly turned around. Bronwyn stood in the doorway with a bright smile that turned instantly into an icy glare.
Ignoring the two men's shocked expressions, I strolled in and spoke calmly. I have something to deliver. I extended the papers I was holding to Haxon. Nervously, he walked over to Henry and laid them on his desk.
My queen!
Henry stood up hastily, attempting to cover up his mistakes with a charming smile. I smiled indifferently, pointing at the papers to quickly convey my thoughts. Truth be told, I wasn't that angry. Compared to Rose calling me sister and Aldrich blaming me for everything related to Rose, this was nothing. But before I could speak, yet another person arrived.
Your Majesty.
Sir Ivar suddenly appeared at the office door, addressing Henry. As I turned around, I noticed his worried expression. What's wrong, Sir Ivar?
Catherine is here.
Henry no longer looked embarrassed, and once again carried himself like a king.
Ask her what brings her here.
He then examined my gaze. I set aside my half-joking, cool attitude and lightly put my hand on his shoulder. Even though she came on her own, Henry didn't stop looking at me. I nodded to Henry as a sign of my approval. It's all right, let her in. Catherine walked in, and she seemed to have neglected her outfit. Her dress was darker than usual, and she had no accessories. Her hair wasn't really done either. It was tied in a simple way. What was even stranger was that Ivar was staring at me with a very sorry expression. What was happening? I had a bad feeling. Catherine looked at me, but spoke to Henry without even a greeting. Your Majesty, could I speak to you alone for a moment?
Sorry, sister-in-law. My wife must stay.
I see. Then I'll tell you here. I've come with a proposal. Take me as your concubine. Her words left everyone in the office in total silence.
Sister-in-law, I think I misheard.
My family and I will help you stabilize the Celestial Isles.
Your family already has a duty to help stabilize the Celestial Isles as nobles of this country.
Your Majesty, surely you must have heard of the rumor circulating between you and I recently. I keep thinking of Your Majesty, as people murmur.
Ivar, get my sister-in-law out of here.
I know Your Majesty doesn't think of me that way, but even if it was just once, Your Majesty has considered it, right? We certainly had a secret meeting, and many ladies witnessed it. Because of that fact, my dignified image and reputation are ruined. If no one had witnessed it, I would keep it as a one-night dream. But in this situation, there is no way around it. We're adults. Your Majesty and I must take responsibility for what happened that night. The nobles, who had previously whispered about the secret meeting between Henry and Catherine, were now stunned to learn that Catherine had openly asked him to make her his concubine. According to Matilda, high society had been thrown into disarray. It was a perplexing move by Catherine, and even I struggled to fully understand her intent. She must have felt that she couldn't escape the scandal, even if she went to Compshire. Cedrica, clearly upset, condemned her actions. "I can't believe she's clinging to the king like that. She's wicked!" I sat at my desk, thinking, and finally pressed a secret button on my desk, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside was a list I received from Grand Duke Bjorn, detailing Catherine's ladies-in-waiting. No matter what Catherine does, she won't be able to regain the power she's already lost. I selected those with little loyalty and dissatisfaction, then ordered my ladies-in-waiting to bring them in secretly. When they arrived, I lectured them sternly. Catherine has no children, so it makes no sense for her to target His Majesty and me. Surely she will not receive too severe a punishment for what she did, being the former queen. But will you be able to enjoy the same glory as you do now? Besides, what will your families and children think? The ladies-in-waiting shuddered. I deliberately spoke calmly. Think carefully. If you change your mind, come to the next State Council and reveal the truth about where Catherine really was at the time she claims to have had a secret meeting with His Majesty.
While Bronwyn investigated Catherine's claim, Henry summoned old Duke Kerridge, Catherine's father. Duke Kerridge already had a severe headache from hearing about his daughter's shocking statement. When Henry called him in, the old Duke assumed it would not be for anything good, and came with a stiff face. Even if Catherine had caused this trouble, she was still his daughter. He intended to defend Catherine, no matter what Henry said, for the sake of both his family and himself. It would not be easy to confront the king, who was known to be a cunning man, but the old Duke was confident in his vast experience. But as he entered the room and saw Henry sitting casually on a comfortable couch, the old Duke sensed that this confrontation would not be easy. The old Duke hated Henry's free spirit. As he sat down, Henry stared at him with a smile, making him feel uncomfortable.
"You called me, Your Majesty." "Is there really any need to pretend with me? You may manage to save her honor right now, but what about what happens next? Will she be able to handle the consequences?"
His tone was kind, but the content was threatening. The old Duke smiled and replied by also pretending to be kind.
"On the contrary, you will lose the position of king if you can't handle the consequences."
"Is that so?"
"Your reputation has been affected by this, but Catherine openly said that she would take all the responsibility. So she declared that she would become your concubine, even though she had been the queen. This is a brave act. However, Your Majesty refuses to take responsibility along with Catherine. Oh, how do you think people will see this?"
"Are you saying that the side that takes responsibility is better off?"
"If you throw Catherine out, or use this as an excuse to harm those around her, Your Majesty's reputation will inevitably suffer. You've already taken a married woman from another country as your wife. Am I right?"
Henry chuckled, then straightened his crossed legs, but there was no hint of fear or anger in his eyes. Instead, he stared at the old Duke with a raised chin. "You don't seem to understand, old Duke. My reputation is already garbage in that sense. It can't fall much further.
No matter what I do, all I hear is garbage this or garbage that. So the question here is, what do you think people will say when I start taking down the Kerridge family and the ones who support them? Aren't you curious? Are you threatening me?
Henry replied, a smile reflected even in his eyes.
Would you care to wait and find out?
The grand chamber was filled with the air of formality. Various nobles, officials, and even a few lucky commoners were there to witness the outcome of the rumour that had taken over the country. I noticed Catherine, dressed elegantly in mourning black, standing out among the assembly. Although she was trying to take me down, I could not help but notice and appreciate the grace and confidence she carried while doing it. The atmosphere was tense as everyone waited for the commencement of the proceedings. Henry, sitting beside me, wore a sullen expression. But as the meeting began, he composed himself with a regal calmness. You seem remarkably composed, Your Majesty.
Appearances can be deceiving, my dear Bronwyn. It is taking everything in my bones not to scream.
Act like this is no bother to you. Do not fuel the fire of the rumour mill. We sat beside each other as commencements began, and the council members argued for one side or the other.
This matter is preposterous. A concubine contract is unthinkable. How can we ignore the eyewitness accounts of Catherine and Henry together? Making her his concubine is the only way to save the reputation of the Celestial Isles.
The room buzzed with conflicting arguments. Despite the tension, Henry remained unfazed. This situation weighed heavily on him, but he concealed it well. I refrained from offering comfort, mindful of the delicate political dynamics. Any presumed attempt to provoke Catherine would only weaken my stand. Anyway, I had quite a twist that I was waiting to reveal. After speaking with a handful of Catherine's ladies-in-waiting, many of them agreed to testify that there was no way Henry could have spent that night with Catherine. They awaited my signal to step forward, which I was about to give, when I heard a gruff, familiar voice come from the back of the room.
Hold your judgments until the truth is revealed.
Council members exchanged puzzled glances. The unexpected interruption raised anticipation in the room. Everyone turned their heads towards the source of the voice. Grand Duke Bjorn slowly walked towards the centre of the room. I was absolutely bewildered. Though I used the list he provided to contact Catherine's ladies-in-waiting, I did not solicit Bjorn's direct involvement in this matter. His intervention was unforeseen, and my stomach began to turn at the thought of the truth being revealed. Love potions used against the new king and queen. What would make us seem weaker, more trivial?
I try not to meddle in other countries' affairs as much as possible. But since this is also my business, I must intervene. And what business of it is yours, a foreigner from Rhett? What are you talking about?
The tension was so great, I thought the ceiling would crumble in.
Henry was with me that night. Liar! You are nothing but an Elisarius sympathizer, and you are trying to raise your status in front of the king's new wife.
Everyone turned to Catherine's lackey, Marquis Clifford, who dared to speak so disrespectfully to a foreign noble, a man whose alliance was important regardless of the scandals going on with us.
Many people must have seen me leave the ballroom with His Majesty that day. I don't know if His Majesty met Catherine as I went elsewhere for a moment, but...
He paused to glance at Catherine before continuing, as if confirming directly with her that he was not the friend she wanted him to be.
I then met with His Majesty again to discuss trade.
Catherine's face darkened as she observed the situation without uttering a word. Uncertain of Henry's whereabouts after their meeting, she seemed to ponder the truth of Bjorn's claim. Suddenly, I gasped to myself as I remembered where the Grand Duke had actually been at that time. Rose. He had seen Rose that evening. I would perhaps never forget the look on her face the next day when he made it abundantly clear that he had no interest in her. I felt petty for finding so much satisfaction in that moment, but now it turned out to be a pivotal piece of information to remember. The Grand Duke and I may have had a strange personal relationship, but he was proving his loyalty to me as a queen above all. He was exploiting the ambiguity of his whereabouts to protect not just me and my kingdom, but the husband he wished was out of the picture. I took advantage of the situation and nodded at the ladies-in-waiting of Catherine's, who I had approached. It was now their turn to speak. Catherine came back early that day. She didn't look like someone who had enjoyed a secret meeting.
While Catherine was outside, His Majesty was meeting with his secretaries, as I explained earlier.
Haxon, with a smile, delivered the final blow to Marquis Clifford, whose face twisted in frustration. Henry's expression remained inscrutable throughout the meeting. As the room fell silent, the tension shifted to Catherine. Pale but dignified, she held her head high. An elegant queen, for better or worse. The next day in the office, Matilda delivered the news that Catherine had departed for Compshire. I nodded quietly and continued my tasks, sensing my lady looking at me strangely. I deliberately maintained an inexpressive face. Internally, I sighed in relief. Catherine's daring gamble with a scandal had ultimately led to her departure. Had things unfolded as she intended, Henry would have borne the disgrace of seducing his sister-in-law, a notion that sent shivers down my spine. But here I was, at dinner with my husband, and our relationship was safe. I got up from my seat and embraced him tightly around the neck.
My queen.
I placed my head on his shoulder, breathing in his familiar and comforting scent, which succeeded in soothing my racing heart.
So, I take it you're no longer angry with me?
I just like to be reminded that you want me. All of me. Not just my noble skills.
There is no part of you I don't want. My skin burns with you and without you. The former with pleasure, the latter with pain.
Henry, seizing the moment, inquired with a sly smile, seeking reassurance that all was now well. Instead of responding verbally, I opted for a more intimate gesture. I kissed him. It was a small kiss, yet in the blink of an eye he had wildly taken control of the situation. Until now, he had wanted me in control, but it seemed like he knew I needed to see the thirst in his eyes. He laid me down on the table, a place we had been before, but this time he had me face down, my face mere centimeters from the plate of food we had once been enjoying civilly. But now we had become animals. He lifted my skirt up, running his hands roughly against the back of my legs, pushing himself so hard against my backside that I was sure we were going to move the table. He rested his hands on my hips and squeezed hard.
I can leave marks where no one will see them. Right, my queen?
I leaned forward so his torso was lying right against my back.
No one but me.
Mock me. With my consent, he used the full might of his body to take me in a way I had never experienced before. His sudden dominance over me was like a new type of king, a new type of husband. The doe-eyed bird was gone, and had been replaced with a man who not only was promising to be by my side for eternity, but seemed desperate to fill that eternity with a type of pleasure I had never known. When we were finished, we collapsed onto the floor of the dining room, both out of breath and giggling like school children who had broken the rules.
Ah, if only we didn't have an empire to run. I would happily spend my days doing just this. I will never leave your side.
I looked into his bright eyes, and I wanted to return his earnest words. But it was really hard for me to tell him. I thought about Rose and Aldrich, and how comfortable I had felt in the place that I had always called home until I was betrayed. My heart beat wildly when I was with Henry, but right now, lust felt safer than love. How had I gotten such a man for a husband? I hadn't even been particularly nice to him. I tried to suppress the feeling, but it was impossible not to notice the way he looked at me and acted. Henry's love was so sweet that, if it ever ended, the loss would be even more bitter and incomparably more painful than it had been to lose Aldrich. It wasn't right to hold on to the wish that he would love only me for the rest of his life. It was better to prepare for the worst. So, it was better to keep some distance now. Keeping a distance would make it less painful if he fell in love with someone else. Catherine had been smart enough to get the support of many nobles, but in the end, she ended up destroying herself for love. Well, for now, we may not have eternity, but we do have some more time before our dinner staff comes to clear our dinner plates.
Are you saying...
Lay down.
Oh, I'm not sure I'll be able to... Oh...
Before he could even begin to protest, I climbed on top of him, and his body disproved what he was about to say. His mouth was about to protest, but his body agreed in an instant to mine. Lust is safer than love. Lust is safer than love. I must remember this.
Henry gazed at Bronwyn as she lay sleeping. He wished he could commit her appearance to memory. He marveled at how enigmatic she was. What was going through her mind? She was so serious, while he was so playful. What was it that brought them together? He lightly planted kisses on Bronwyn's cheek, ear, and temple as she dozed. Then he affectionately nuzzled his forehead against her shoulder.
I love you.
Alas, no response, but he still whispered to her sweetly.
I love you.
He knew that even if she were awake, she wouldn't have given him an answer.
I wish to occupy your heart, even if just for a day.
He laid his ear against her chest. The rhythm of her heartbeat was oddly comforting. He then raised his left hand and placed it over his own heart. His heart was racing a mile a minute. One more light kiss on Bronwyn's shoulder, and regrettably he had to extricate himself from bed. He wanted to linger beside her, but duty called. After tucking her in and bestowing one final kiss on Bronwyn's cheek, Henry quietly departed the marital chamber. Cedrica was waiting for Henry in the corridor, yawning and leaning against the wall. When she saw the king, she adjusted her posture with sleepy eyes.
Your Majesty, you summoned me?
Henry responded with a simple grin, proceeding downstairs without awaiting an answer.
Hey, wait for me!
Once they reached the office, Cedrica lit the torches so they could get to whatever this secret meeting required. There were many loyal knights in the Imperial Guard, but Henry's connection with the underground knights had always been distinct. Henry placed more trust in the underground knights, who he had nurtured since his princely days, than the Imperial Guards. This trust often manifested in confidential assignments, and that was precisely the situation now.
Have you heard about the incident with my sister-in-law?
How would I not know? The incident that distressed the Queen is the gossip of the entire realm.
Cedrica's response prompted a frown from Henry.
I'm sorry, Your Majesty. Was that impolite?
On the contrary, I want to hear more of Bronwyn's state during this messy affair.
Cedrica elucidated the challenges faced by Bronwyn during the incident with Catherine, underscoring her resolute demeanour. Henry, wrapped in attention, let out a sigh.
Even with my sister-in-law secluded in Compshire, I do not rest easy. Merely because she has acquiesced for now does not signify an unequivocal resolution. There remain numerous adherents to her cause.
And the originator of this baseless rumour remains unknown.
Exactly. This necessitates prudence. Rumours serve as smokescreens. The potential machinations of my sister-in-law's allies remain uncertain. Cedrica, we must address this threat. Do you agree?
Undoubtedly, Your Majesty.
So what course of action do you propose? How can I ensure my sister-in-law does not resurface to disturb my queen?
Should we pursue her and eliminate her discreetly? I could disguise myself as a bandit.
Cedrica's response was starkly direct, devoid of deference for the former queen. This was exactly the disparity between the Imperial Guard and Henry's personal knights. In contrast to the Imperial Guard, Henry's personal knights exhibited no clemency towards either the former king or queen. Henry smiled subtly and responded,
Negative. Eliminating the former queen could inadvertently stoke the unfounded speculation that I orchestrated my brother's demise.
So, shall we employ intimidation? The consequences of a baseless rumour could be perilous if it were to circulate once more.
That approach also lacks prudence.
Viewing Catherine as a dignified noblewoman, Henry had presumed that she would relocate to Compshire once the scandal gained traction. However, Catherine's unexpected actions confounded everyone's expectations.
I don't advocate for her demise, nor do I endorse threats against her. Yet we must act. Were there not individuals allied with my sister-in-law during her fabrications? Some even pledged allegiance to follow her to Compshire. Correct?
Indeed.
When they find themselves within the residence alongside my sister-in-law, ensure that all the entrances and apertures are secured, hindering any prospect of an exit.
What? Do you propose to confine them?
Secure the doors and windows discreetly, creating an illusion that they chose not to depart. Leave no evidence that they are being restrained.
Understood.
Supply them daily with water, exquisite beverages, spirits, and delectable victuals. Maintain the appearance that the abode is replete with such amenities.
Henry murmured with a genial smile,
I shall attend to her with due care.
I woke up suddenly, feeling a strange coldness. I looked beside me to see Henry gone, and I realized that his warmth was what I was lacking. Though it was warm under the covers, it paled in comparison to the comforting heat of Henry. It was a rare occurrence to wake up without his presence next to me since we started sharing a bed. Even though I knew he was a grown man who was surrounded by gods, it was strange to find him gone, and I could not help but worry. Restless, I decided to slip into my slippers and venture into the corridor. Henry.
He has gone to his office, Your Majesty.
I was startled at the appearance of Sir Ivar, but even more surprised at the information that he gave me. Henry was working at this hour. Puzzled, I descended the stairs slowly, contemplating whether to check Henry's office. I did not have to keep looking for long before Henry showed up on the stairs. He hastened towards me, removing his cloak and placing it around my shoulders.
My queen, it's cold. Why did you come out?
Because I didn't see you when I woke up. Instead of responding, he simply enfolded me in a tight embrace. The warmth was back, and I felt as though I could fall asleep where I stood.
The weather was getting warmer, and in Elisaria, that was cause for celebration. At the royal palace, nobles gathered in the banquet hall, adorned in light attire, creating an atmosphere of festivity. Yet the true purpose was far from mere seasonal revelry. Aldrich orchestrated this banquet as a ruse to scrutinize Duke Elegy. He seamlessly mingled with the attendees, stealing occasional glances at Elegy, who outwardly resembled a typical high society playboy. As Aldrich set down an empty glass and reached for a new one, a sudden exclamation pierced the air.
Oh, my!
Aldrich spotted a young lady with soft, golden, curly hair. Her dress bore evidence of a mishap. A glass toppled nearby, and embarrassment painted her face. A spill had marred her attire, prompting her to survey the room for assistance, her gaze settling on Aldrich.
What should I do?
The absurdity struck Aldrich. Could she be seeking aid from the king himself? He signaled to a nearby servant to lend a hand to the distressed lady. This young lady was Liliana, deliberately spilling her drink to captivate Aldrich's attention. Despite mockery from her family, she clung to her resolution to seduce Aldrich as vengeance for Bronwyn. Aldrich, however, refocused on Duke Elegy, paying Liliana no further heed. A pang of disappointment clouded Liliana's demeanor, met with laughter and ignorance from most attendees, who failed to comprehend her attempt to capture the king's attention. But not Rose.
She tried to seduce my husband with that ridiculous performance.
Rose harbored an intense dislike of Liliana, and perceived her actions as particularly loathsome. When their eyes met, Liliana displayed an impolite disregard for the queen. Rose gritted her teeth, regretting her inability to dispose of Liliana immediately. Then a devious notion took root. Why not orchestrate Liliana's downfall through her own father, Viscount Rothescue? His presence at the banquet provided Rose with a convenient opportunity to summon him. After the festivities, she issued an order for Viscount Rothescue to visit her in her drawing room.
Come in.
Viscount Rothescue entered the room with a glint of curiosity in his eyes, anticipating that Rose was about to unveil a clandestine secret.
Can you secure a skilled and discreet mercenary?
Securing a mercenary is within my capabilities.
A mercenary adept at carrying out lethal tasks for a fee?
Certainly.
Prove it. That will be all.
With his signature yellow-toothed smile, Viscount Rothescue departed. Rose rejoiced at the prospect of employing him to eliminate the detestable Liliana. In the aftermath of a cavalry assault led by Oscar, a spirited confrontation unfolded between him and the celestial lord of the Eternal Thousand Bandits, Kelderek. The celestial lord had hastily retreated to the rear with his wounded comrades, leaving Oscar's cavalry arranged in 3 formidable rows. Kelderek, wiping his forehead to rid it of sweat, realized the moisture on his hand was blood.
What are you doing here? Can't you live without seeing our faces?
Is that any way to greet an old friend?
Friend? You're a bastard.
I came all this way because I missed you.
Get out!
Get out of my land!
Whose land is that again?
The Celestial Isles knights accompanying Oscar exchanged amused glances. It was a spectacle to witness the feared leader of the Eternal Thousand Bandits throwing a tantrum in front of Oscar, reminiscent of a petulant child. It was also gratifying to see Oscar sarcastically provoking him.
I see that your affection for me is no longer the same. I think I'll stay here so we can get reacquainted.
You filthy bastard!
Despite Kelderek's snorting and attempts to wipe off the blood, Oscar remained unperturbed, sporting a persistent smile. Though Oscar's handsome appearance gave the impression of a benevolent knight, Kelderek knew firsthand about the depths of Oscar's insanity. During Oscar's time on the Elisarian border, Kelderek initially mistook him for a nobleman with a fervent sense of justice. However, witnessing Oscar on the battlefield revealed the truth. He was a true lunatic, masking his madness behind courtesy.
Abominable bastard!
Kelderek turned away from Oscar and the Celestial Knights, and Oscar raised his eyebrows in mock disappointment.
Leaving so soon?
Instead of responding, Kelderek turned back towards Oscar and charged towards him at full speed, sword outstretched.
Yeah!